It's day 6 of the Israel-Hamas war, 144 hours and counting. The death toll continues to rise in Israel because more bodies are being recovered from sites that came under attack on Saturday, and in Gaza because it is coming under waves of aerial strikes by Israeli forces. So more than 1,300 dead in Israel and more than 1,400 in Gaza. Unless there's a miracle, this time tomorrow, we'll be reporting a higher death toll. Let me show you some pictures from this morning. The skies over Gaza were filled with smoke. This is a small enclave, 41 kilometers long, some 12 kilometers wide at its widest point. That's Gaza for you. And it has seen non-stop bombardment over the last few days. What about Israel? It is much better fortified, but still on the edge. Rockets are streaking across the sky every once in a while. The Iron Dome is intercepting them. And before I tell you more, let me also say this. This is an evolving situation. Updates are coming in every minute. There is unpredictability, and that is what makes a war dangerous. You don't know what's coming the next moment. So when I say these are the updates on day 6, these are the key developments in the last 24 hours that we've put together for you. So here are the top 5 updates of the day. The first one is from Israel. They now have a unity government in place. It's both the ruling party and the opposition. It's essentially a wartime cabinet. Yesterday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced its formation. This government has 3 key members: Prime Minister Netanyahu himself, Opposition Leader Benny Gantz, and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. One key name is missing in this list: Opposition Leader Yair Lapid. He has not joined it yet, but there is a seat reserved for him too. And what's the purpose of this wartime unity government? To fight the war, to reduce the response time, and to defeat Hamas. Listen to this.
We are fighting with all our strength on all fronts. We went on the offensive. Every Hamas member is a dead man. Hamas is ISIS, and it will be crushed and eliminated just as the world crushed and eliminated ISIS.
Every Hamas member is a dead man, says Netanyahu. Israel wants to wipe Hamas off the face of this earth. Strong words. The opposition in Israel echoes them. Benny Gantz has said, and I quote, "It is the time for war." So their goal and intent is quite clear. But what is their plan? That brings us to update number 2, a ground offensive. It is happening. Israel is preparing on war footing. Troops have already been deployed near the border, tens of thousands of them. They're stationed a stone's throw away from Gaza. In fact, we were in the border towns earlier this week. We saw tanks rolling and the build-up in progress. There is heavy armory, tanks, troops, everything that you need for a ground offensive. It seems they're only waiting for a political decision, for a go-ahead from the top leadership. Until then, the aerial bombardment continues. That is update number 3. Israel says every strike they carry out is led by intelligence, which is not saying very much, considering that they had a colossal intelligence failure just a few days back. But the point they're trying to make is this. They are targeting Hamas, and civilians are collateral damage. Hamas, on the other side, went after civilians as their primary targets. And there's a big difference in the two. Israel wants to underline this difference. Having said that, their strikes have destroyed entire neighborhoods in Gaza. Many parts of the strip have been reduced to rubble. The biggest target for Tel Aviv right now is the tunnel network. And to understand what this is, you must know the layout of Gaza. It is blockaded from most sides, caught between Israel and the deep blue sea. So Hamas has built tunnels underground, a very complicated labyrinth of tunnels, and they use these tunnels for everything, for traveling, for transporting food and fuel, and even weapons. Now, Israel says that Hamas uses this tunnel network for its terrorist operations. So they're targeting these tunnels with what? The weapons they're using are called bunker busters. These bombs burrow themselves deep into the ground and then they detonate. So they can destroy infrastructure like tunnels. Long story short, this war is escalating, and so is the politics. That's our development number 4, update number 4. The developments behind the scenes. Different players are trying to broker a ceasefire. West Asian nations are pushing for talks, the likes of Qatar, Egypt and Turkey. They're talking to Hamas, they're asking for the release of hostages. And here's what they propose. Release Israeli hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. Basically a prisoner swap. But it may not happen immediately because neither Israel nor Hamas seems interested in making any concessions. So there's little scope for diplomacy at this point and little hope of restraint, which brings us to update number 5. What is coming next? How long will this war go on, and how will it affect the rest of the world, people like you and me? Honestly, it's hard to say. Too many players, too many variables, and inflamed passions. It is never a good mix. And the cost will be high, both human and financial. The immediate impact for the world is in terms of connectivity. There have been multiple flight disruptions and cancellations. Airlines are simply not taking the risk. We don't have the exact number, but 1/3 of flights to and from Israel have been cancelled. More could follow in the coming days. Global markets are tracking these developments closely. Right after the war broke out, oil prices shot up by 4%. They've cooled since. Today, oil fell by 2%. And this was largely because of a pledge from Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia, as you would know, is the world's second largest oil producer, and they have promised to stabilize the oil market, meaning they'll increase the output to steady supplies. So that's some positive news. But remember, it holds only if the conflict does not spill over. Even though Israel is not a major producer or supplier of oil, it is located in a region that is central to the global oil economy. And right now, West Asia is a powder keg.